There were two of me. The girl who laid that blue-bordered sheet across the foot of the bed on her wedding morning, and the woman who smoothed it back into place the next day, alone, after the door had closed behind them. I am 80 years old now. I have been the second woman for 61 years. And I speak differently than I used to. I hold myself differently. Not in the way people can see. To look at me, I am the same woman who has sat in the same pew for 6 decades, who has handed down the same prayers to her daughters, who has folded her hands the same way at every fellowship meal. But inside, something closed on a Tuesday morning in October when I was 19 years old. Something I did not choose to close. Something that has never fully reopened. Not my children, not my husband, God rest him, not my sister, who was my closest friend for 72 years. Not one of them knows which version of me they have been speaking to all this time. By the time I finish telling you what happened that morning, you will understand both women. I need you to understand both. If you have come this far into the night with me, I am grateful for the company. If this kind of telling matters to you, the quiet kind, the kind that took 61 years to say aloud, would you consider staying? There is a subscribe button somewhere near this video. Press it if you are willing. And tell me in the comments below, where are you listening from tonight? I read every single one. I mean that. My name is not something I will give you. Names belong to communities, and what I am telling you tonight belongs only to me. What I will tell you is this. I grew up in a Lancaster settlement, the third daughter of a flax farming family, in a house that smelled of iron water and beeswax, and the particular stillness that settles over a plain home after the evening prayer is said. I am 80 years old. My hands are the hands of a woman who has kneaded bread and mended harness leather and planted more springs than she can count. I have lived a full life. I do not say what I am about to say from a place of damage. I say it because I have carried it long enough, and because I have come to believe, that some things are not meant to be carried alone until the grave. The girl I was at 19, I think of her almost as a separate person now. She was not a simple girl. She was not a fearful girl. She was devout in the way that comes from having never been given reason to doubt. The way a child is certain the floor will hold her because the floor has always held her. She believed the ordnung the way she breathed, not as a cage, as the shape of a life that made sense. She had sewn every stitch of her own wedding dress over 11 months, beginning the January of the year she was betrothed. She pressed those seams herself. She knew what she was walking toward, and she was not afraid. That girl does not deserve to be dismissed. I want you to understand that. She was earnest, and her earnestness was real, and I carry her with me still. She rose before light, every morning without exception, the kerosene lamp lit while the sky was still the colour of slate, the prayer cap pinned before she allowed herself a single bite of breakfast. Not because anyone was watching, because order was how she understood love, because the Gelassenheit her mother had taught her was not submission born of fear. It was, she believed, the highest form of trust. to yield the self entirely to God's design, as it had been handed down through the community, through the Gamay, through the elder women who had walked this path before her. She understood yielding as protection. She understood the community's eye as a kind of roof, something built over her, not a thing that pressed down. This is what she believed. I tell you this without mockery, because it was true for her. It simply was not the whole truth. Before I go further, if you are new here, if someone brought you to this telling tonight, I want to invite you to stay for all of it. The description below this video has more, a companion for what you are about to hear. But more than anything, I want you here, with me, for the whole of it. What I am about to tell you took me 61 years to say aloud. I would not want you to miss the part that finally gave me words. In the weeks before the wedding, the women of the Gamay came to our house with gifts, quilts, preserves, a cedar chest her aunts had sanded smooth. They smiled at her, the way women smile when they know something you do not. She believed those smiles were blessing. She stitched 23 tiny crosses along the border of her own pillow slip, one for each year she had hoped to be married by, one extra for Grace. Her mother sat with her 2 nights before the ceremony and spoke in a near whisper, one sentence only, repeated twice. Be still. It will be over before the lamp goes out. She took this as counsel about the wedding night. She was not wrong about that. But she did not yet understand it was counsel about the morning too. And then there was the sheet, white, her grandmother's hemming, a thin border of blue thread along the edge, the colour of a winter sky just before it decides to snow. The afternoon before the ceremony, 3 women came, elder women, women she had known since she was small enough to be carried on their hips. They sat with her at the kitchen table, while her mother stood at the stove with her back turned, the way a woman stands when she has decided the younger women must do what she could not. The 3 women spoke to her about what would happen that night. Not with warmth, not with detail. In the particular coded language that plain women use when they must name a thing without naming it. They told her what to feel. They told her how to behave. They told her what she must not do, and they listed these things in a tone she would have called instructional if she had the word for it then. And then, almost as though they had nearly forgotten, the eldest, a woman with hands like sanded wood and eyes that had seen 70 winters, said, "In the morning, we will come in the morning, to make sure you are well." She nodded. She did not fully understand. That night she laid the blue-bordered sheet across the foot of the bed herself. She smoothed it once with the flat of her hand. The lamp was already low. She said the prayer her mother had taught her, the one she had memorized on her knees at age 7, the one that asked for stillness and for grace and for the wisdom to yield correctly. She said it twice, the way her mother had said the counsel. She was 19 years old. She was a girl who ironed her prayer cap twice before church, and counted her blessings by name before she slept, and had never in her life understood what it meant to have a door inside herself, let alone to close one. She believed she was ready for what morning would bring. The sentence I have never let myself finish for 61 years is the one that comes next. I need to take a breath before I tell you what happened that morning. If you have a moment, go to the description below. There is something there for you. But come back. I have carried this for 61 years. I have never once spoken it aloud. Not to my sister, not to my daughters, not to the God I still speak to every evening, in the particular language a woman develops when she has been alone with herself long enough. I am going to name it now. The wedding itself I will not describe. But that morning, that Tuesday morning in October, I have not been the same woman since. And now, at last, I am ready to tell you why. The iron stove had already been lit. I could smell the wood smoke before I opened my eyes. That particular smell, birch and something green that had not fully dried. The kind of smell that means someone else has been awake before you and has already decided the shape of the morning. My husband was gone to the barn. The room was the colour of early light, that thin grey gold that comes through plain curtains and makes everything look like it is still deciding whether to be real. I lay still for a moment. The blue thread on the sheet's border caught the light from the window. I looked at it. I was still her, still that girl, still arranged, still folded neatly inside the life I had been given and had chosen and had sewn with my own hands. And then the door opened. There was no knock. 3 women. My mother-in-law first, then the eldest, the one with the sanded wood hands. Then a third I will not describe further. They came in and they stood at the foot of the bed, and they spoke to each other in Pennsylvania Dutch, low and deliberate. The way women speak when the business at hand is not a conversation, but a confirmation. They asked me questions. Not cruel questions, not questions with raised voices or hard eyes. Questions spoken in the tone of a woman checking that the preserve jars have sealed correctly. They looked at the sheet. They spoke about my body in the third person. She, not you. As though I had briefly become a subject rather than a person, a thing being assessed for correctness. I did not weep. I did not speak. I folded my hands in my lap. I counted the folds without knowing I was counting. 17. I counted 17 times before they finished. They left. The door closed. The room was exactly as it had been. They asked. They looked. They spoke about me as though I was not there. I rose. I remade the bed. I smoothed the blue-bordered sheet back into its place with the flat of my hand, the same hand that had smoothed it the night before. And I pulled the quilt up over it, and I tucked the corners the way my mother had taught me. Hospital corners, neat and certain. I went downstairs. I put the kettle on. I did not cry. Not that morning, not that week, not that season. I did not cry until the following spring, 47 weeks later, alone in the root cellar, with the smell of turned earth and cold stone around me, for reasons I could not have explained to anyone who asked. I simply sat down on the dirt floor and wept, once, for about 23 minutes. And then I stood up and went back to the kitchen and finished what I had started. The door I had closed that Tuesday morning, I understood it then in the root cellar. Not a door of faith, not a door of marriage. A door between the self I kept for God and myself, and the community's ancient, unquestioned right to walk through it without knocking. I want to pause here before I tell you who I became. I want to ask you something. Was there ever a morning that changed you? A morning no one else noticed, that left no mark anyone could see, but that you have been different ever since? Tell me in the comments below. I read every one. I mean it when I say that. And if you want to hear more of what plain women carried in silence, come back. There is more I have not yet said. But for now, stay with me. We are almost to the part that took the longest to understand. I stayed. I want you to know that first. I raised 5 children in the same faith I had been raised in the same settlement, in the same gamay where those women had stood at the foot of my bed. I loved my husband. I say this plainly, without performance. He was a good man who worked hard and did not raise his voice, and grew sweeter in his old age the way some men do, like wood that has had time to season. I am not telling you a story about leaving. I never left. But I became, slowly and without announcing it, a woman who had a room inside herself that was hers alone. A room no one was invited into. Not because I was cold, not because I was wounded in a way that made me unable to give, but because I had learned, on a Tuesday morning in October, the difference between what I owed the community and what I owed myself. And I kept that room. For 61 years I kept it. The sheet. I kept it. When my daughters were married, all 4 of them, one by one, I did not send it with them. I kept it folded in the cedar chest, beneath the extra quilts, in the particular darkness that cedar chests hold. Not as a wound. I need you to hear that. Not as a wound. As a marker. As the specific, plain evidence that I had been counted on a Tuesday morning, and had not been made less by the counting. That I had smoothed it back into place with my own hands, and gone downstairs and put the kettle on, and lived a full life anyway. When I am gone, I have told my youngest daughter, bury it with me. Not the whole chest, just the sheet. Not because it holds grief, because it holds the morning I became the woman who understood that some things are kept, not given. That not everything that belongs to you must be offered up for inspection. I am 80 years old. I do not know, even now, whether what those women did that morning was done from love or from custom, or from something no one in that room had ever once stopped to ask a question about. I have turned it over for 6 decades, and I have decided it does not matter. What matters is that I know the difference now between the community's version of me, the version that could be checked and confirmed and spoken about in the third person, and the woman I have actually been for 61 years. The one who put the kettle on, who kept the sheet, who pressed her daughter's hands before they walked into any room full of people with opinions about them, and said nothing aloud but meant, "You are more than what they are about to count." I do not know what morning changed you, but I think, if you are sitting with me this late at night, in whatever room you are in whatever quiet you have made for yourself, you know the one I mean. I see you. I have seen you the whole time. They counted me that morning. They were wrong about the number. If you have stayed with me this long, through all of it, through the girl with the prayer cap and the blue bordered sheet and the root cellar floor, and the 61 years of a door held quietly closed, then you are the kind of person I would want sitting across from me at my kitchen table. Subscribe if you are willing. Come back. I have more mornings to name, and I would rather name them with you than carry them alone.